But like another student I was just working with, she was a gymnast for a while in her younger years. And I had known that because I know her mother. And she had transitioned to swimming. And at one point I was like, just tell me about like what made you switch from gymnastics to swimming? Well, she started talking about how it was such a toxic environment and the coaches like pushed and didn't care about your body. And she ended up fracturing her back. And had to stop and started trying all these other different things and ended up taking a class on making sushi. And as she's trying to make sushi, is looking out through a window over the pool and sees the swim team. And that became the transition to how she got into swim. And I'm like, okay, this is your story now. Like this shows you had this dream of being a college gymnast. You couldn't do that because you broke your back. The environment was not a healthy environment physically, much less, mentally or emotionally. Tried this other thing. And, as you're and she did really good with talking about the sticky rice and the seaweed wraps and everything. And, was just watching the swimmers. And it showed this nice progression into where she is. And then she's able to flourish now in swimming. So that kind of narrative, where it shows you coming out the other side better, stronger, triumphant, something like that.
Question for
Those are great. The word count, the shorter ones are designed to see if you can articulate yourself in just a few words. Can you get your point across? It's a different set of skill than a longer one that has more words available in it. The main personal statement on the Common App, for instance, is a minimum of 250. It's a max of 650. I think it's an opportunity. And I think there are different things you show about how you express yourself across a narrative with multiple paragraphs. Can you stick to your point? Do you address the question? Are your thoughts clearly laid out in a very logical manner so your reader can follow you? Can you use your words and sentence structure and paragraph structure and grammar, spelling, syntax, vocabulary? Can you articulate what you're trying to get across? So there's a mental acuity and a different level of the written verbal skill. More than how many words is it? It's showing how your brain processes and how you can lay out an argument. As to who edits, who critiques, generally it's better to go with somebody objective. Use a teacher, use a professional, or somebody who writes professionally, who can look at an essay and say, is this well done or not? You get too many people in there and you're going to be overwhelmed, and it's going to end up losing who you are in this whole entire thing. And at the end of the day, you still need to take ownership of this and say, no, this is mine. This is what I want to say. Because you can edit endlessly. I mean, you really, really, really can. Generally, with students, I get ones who go over the word count, which is fine, because I will take it and trim sentences down and restructure them and cut out unnecessary words, and I'll bring it down. But one of the other reasons to have somebody else read it is because there are homonyms. There are words that sound the same, but it's the wrong word. And sometimes you get stuck in your head and the grammar checker is not going to catch it and the spelling checker is not going to catch it because it's an actual word. And so having somebody else read it is a good way to see, does your point come across clearly to somebody else like it is in your head, or do you need to reword something? Is it, are they getting stuck on, I don't know what you're trying to say in this particular point? Right. But I mean, I think your English and creative writing teachers are probably the better ones but one or two. I mean, really, you don't need more than that. But friends and family, they love you. They mean well. Yes, of course, they want to see you succeed. But they're going to end up having other hypercritical points of view and how to structure this, rather than somebody who is just looking at this objectively as, I read these, I do these, here's how you can make this stronger. But yeah, making sure it's your story, it's hyper personalized, it's conveying and speaking and showing something about how you feel and how you look at the world around you. So the words, I think, use as many as you can. But make sure they're good content. That's the other trick, especially with the longer ones, is making sure that everything you're putting in there actually matters and drives your point further through to the conclusion. Like, you don't have a lot of room to deviate on all these subtopics. Like, you really do need to stick to one narrative. So I think it's beneficial to have somebody else read it just to make sure you're sticking to your point, and that what's in your head is conveying clearly through the written word, because that's really what they want to see, is how well you can articulate yourself. I think the best definition of perfectionism that I came across recently is that perfectionism is really a fear that your best effort is going to be rejected. And I think, like, I tell that to my dancer a lot, because she's got that in her as well. And I'm like, that's really what it is. And I think when you understand what the fear is behind that, you can get past your perfectionism a little bit more, a little bit easier. Yeah, thank you. I do. This is part of my business. So parents and students will, hire me either to edit their essay that they've already drafted, or to walk through from the very start, figure out your topic, and then I'll write down an outline for the student to follow. Student always writes the draft, and I'm always very clear about that. I don't do it for them. And then I can come in behind and just streamline it and tweak it a little bit and make it ready for submission. And even going through individual college applications, because some of them are laborious and they have a lot of components to them, and it's overwhelming. And so there's an accountability factor too that I can come in and provide with, coming up with, here's your weekly to-do list. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are the things I want you to get done, by this time, and then I'll check in with you, next week, and having phone calls if necessary to talk about more topics for all these little written portions, because there's a lot of them sometimes, and just making sure that they feel supported all the way through. And it also takes the pressure off the parents, because like the parents I talk to, they're like, but this is all I talk to about them, and it's really causing a lot of stress and strain on the relationship. And that's not what you want to be the narrative of their senior year of high school. So sometimes hiring a professional is really the fastest and the best way to get it done, if it's taking time and adding stress on you. Website is www.southernambition-nc, like North Carolina.com. And there's a contact form on there. People can find me on Facebook and PM me. That's fine too. Like, I'm always on Facebook. So those are generally the best ways to get a hold of me. But yeah, I love working with students through these things.